Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. Have you guys ever heard the term Republican light? This typically refers to Republicans from very heavily blue states that tend to be more liberal than conservative. Even though they have that R next to their name, you never know which way they're going to vote. Case in point, Chris Jacobs, Republican out of the state of New York, just introduced new gun control. Stay tuned to hear what he wants you to do if you want to get yourself a new semi-automatic rifle. Now, before we get into this absolutely horrendous bill, I want to thank you all very much for watching. I noticed that about 70% of you are not subscribed to the channel. It's free. It only takes a second to hit that subscribe button, and it helps me out greatly. And check out the main sponsor of this channel, which is the USCCA. If you carry, you need to have a USCCA card in your wallet. If something does happen, you call 911, then you call the number on the back of that USCCA card, and they will get an attorney who knows the Second Amendment to support you through the entire process. It's the best peace of mind you'll ever have in your wallet. So the first thing I want to say here is that Republican Chris Jacobs is not going to be running for re-election. So he's not going to be on the ballot in November, which also means that he is no longer beholden to his constituents. Now there's rumor that he's not running again because of the backlash that he got over support of H.R. 1808, which is the House of Representatives, newest, latest, and greatest so-called assault weapons ban. Now, after he showed his support for that, there was quite a bit of backlash, but it doesn't seem like that really fazed him very much. Even though he's not running again, he decided to put forward his own gun control bill, which is going to be H.R. 8882, which is a massive licensing scheme. So this bill is going to require that anybody who looks to purchase one of these, so-called assault weapons, which we all know to be just simple semi-automatic centerfire rifles, anybody that wants to acquire one of these is now going to have to go through a massive licensing scheme, which is going to involve quite a bit. Now, H.R. 8882 was just introduced on September 19th of 2022. Now, there's no bill text yet, so we don't have the exact text. What we have is some verbiage from Chris Jacobs himself as to what this bill looks to do. If something comes out different than that, and we see that the bill text actually includes more, then I'll make an updated video on that bill text. Right now, it's been referred to the Judiciary Committee, so it's going to be heard by the Judiciary Committee before it's actually voted on. But this bill, again, seeks to add a licensing scheme to anybody that looks to purchase one of these so-called assault weapons. Now, what that means is that anybody who walks into a store is going to have to first obtain a license before even going through the background check process. So unless you have a license, you won't even be able to fill out a 4473 for one of these. This also means that if you are to acquire one, let's say that somebody passes one down, somebody wants to give you one, a family member, whatever the case is, you would first have to have that federally obtained license prior to actually taking possession of it. So regardless if you go into a store or if you get one from somebody else, you would still have to have a license not only to purchase, but to acquire and to possess. So this is, again, a federal license just to practice your Second Amendment rights. Now, it does look like there's going to be a grandfather clause in here, but grandfather clauses, remember, are just a stepping stone to taking away everything. Just like in California, they had grandfather clauses on magazines, right? Well, they decided that they didn't want people to have those anymore, so they just simply rewrite things in order to remove the grandfather clause and then have them taken away altogether. Now, we don't know exactly what the requirements are going to be for obtaining one of these licenses. It's very likely that it would be something similar to obtaining a CCW. So there's going to be extended background checks. More than likely, they're going to dive into your social media. They're probably going to want interviews and fingerprints and, all of that extra stuff that you wouldn't necessarily go through a standard 4473. So your 4473, for those who don't know, is your typical background check. That's something that you have to go through anyway. You have to go through a NICS check in order to acquire one of these anyway. So when you walk into the store, it's not like you're just picking one up and walking out with it. You have to fill out the appropriate paperwork and a background check is done. Now, this background check is an FBI background check that looks into your history to see whether or not you're a qualified or unqualified individual to purchase something like this. And that's pretty much how it goes across the board, right? So there's already a background check that's being done. This basically says we don't believe that a background check is enough, and so we're going to make you obtain one of these licenses so that we can dive even deeper into who you are. Not just necessarily the interactions that you may have had with law enforcement in the past, or whether or not, you are disqualified in some way, but we want to see who you are, what type of person you are. And so more than likely, it's going to be something about your character that's going to either allow or disallow you to have one of these licenses. That's more than likely what's going to happen. So again, just like California, like New York, like Massachusetts, and so many of these other places that have now added character into obtaining a CCW, that's more than likely what you're going to see here in obtaining one of these licenses to purchase, so-called assault weapon. That's, I think, what you're probably going to see. But again, we don't know for sure. But we can look at history. We can look at things that have happened before and say this is what people who put these gun control bills forward look to accomplish, and so we can kind of apply it here even before we have the bill text. So again, this is kind of what happens. I mean, you got Adam Kinzinger, who is not running again. He's retiring. And, he supports bans. He supports regulations like this. He supports gun control. You have Liz Cheney and other Republicans who all of a sudden are no longer beholden to their constituents, and suddenly they just flip like that. It's really interesting to watch, but it feels like pretty much the entire time they were on the campaign trail, they were saying the exact opposite. Once they don't care about your vote anymore, now we have, bills like this, like 8882 coming out. So if you guys want more information on it, I'll put the link to the bill directly down below. It's at congress.gov. I'll put a link to the bill down below so that you guys can check on it back if you want to, and you'll be able to see if that bill text comes out yourself. And I wanted to let you guys know that that came out. It's really interesting to see that we still have this stuff going forward, even after the Bruin decision, where obviously something like this never existed in prior history from the foundation of our country moving forward. So it shouldn't be able to exist now. It's pretty much deemed unconstitutional before it even passes. But yet again, here it is. So we'll just keep talking about it, and we'll keep fighting back against it. I want to thank you all very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and you guys have a great day.